Hello and welcome to another B&T unboxing video. Today we're taking a first look at the 8BitDo M30 wireless game controller for the Sega Genesis. This is coming out in conjunction with the Analogue Mega SG that, fingers crossed, I will receive either tomorrow or Tuesday. Tracking number said Tuesday, but it shows it has arrived in my state, so it may be here Monday. That's kind of exciting. Anyhow, I ordered this from Amazon. Amazon got it to me today on Sunday. Haven't opened it up yet, so we're going to dive right into this and see how it looks. See how it compares to the Super Nintendo version controller that they came out with last year, and see how it compares to an original Genesis controller, at least feel-wise. Let's dive right on in. As you can see from the box, I chose the white one. I felt it was neat. Usually you don't see white controllers, white stuff, and I figured it was a pretty cool contrast from the black and blue of the Mega SG that I ordered. So I figured that was kind of cool. Small box, not too much on it. On the back you can see it's for the original Genesis and Mega Drive, and if you don't know, the Analogue Mega SG uses the same controller ports, so you could use this controller, it's wireless, or you could use the original controllers. But this is designed for the original system. It has your transmitter and the controller. Let's just pop it open. Put on the tab. Alright, there we have it. So we got the controller. If you look real, I don't know if it's, I'm not going to try. Right here in the middle, it has the company name, 8BitDo, and then M30 2.4G. Really can't see it. Not sure. I don't know if it's white on the black one, or if it's how it works. Controller feels nice. Here's the little transmitter. It's a lot smaller than the one for the Super Nintendo, I can tell you that. And in a second I'll show it, compare it. We also have a charging cable. And then lastly we have the instructions, which pretty much just tells you what the buttons are. Anyhow, so those are the instructions. And this is the... Okay, now let's compare this new wireless controller to an original Sega Genesis controller. I do not have original Genesis 6-bit controller, or 6-button, not 6-button controller. I only have the original 3-button, but it should give us a good comparison. So here's the 3-button one. Compare them up. The original Genesis controller is quite a bit bigger. Yeah, as you can see, it's definitely more of a U shape going on right here, and it's a good bit larger. This one, I don't foresee it being difficult to use. The Genesis did not have any left and R and L shoulder buttons, and the start button was up at the top. Again, this is the 3-button configuration. I'm presuming on the 6-button they had to move the start button, otherwise it would all collide. If you have not figured out, I am not originally a Genesis owner back when they first came out. I was full force Super Nintendo. I did get a Sega Genesis Model 3, which I do not recommend to anybody, when I was in college. But that's my own experience with the Genesis. I've played a few times at video rental stores before I bought a game, if they had something going on, but I never owned one. So that's a comparison to the original Sega controller. Now let's compare it to 3D, I don't know why I keep saying 3DO. The 8-bit Duo, their other controller they came out with, the Super Nintendo controller. As you can see, they are fairly close in size. The Genesis one's a little bit wider at the bottom, mimicking the Genesis style. But otherwise, they're very similar in shape and size. As I mentioned earlier, the Genesis receiver is quite small. It's probably about the size of a quarter. And the Super Nintendo one is substantially bigger. Now I know the controller port on the Super Nintendo is bigger than the Genesis, but just the length and width of it, of the transmitter part, is quite a bit larger. This one does have the ability you can update the firmware in it, whereas the Genesis one doesn't have that. I don't know if firmware updates will only be on the controller itself, or if there is no need for firmware updates. I'm not sure what it is, or if this is more of a universal connector, if it will work with other wireless controllers. Not sure. If you do know, cool. You can give me the 411 on that. But just comparison-wise of visual aesthetics, the Genesis one's a lot smaller and almost clean to the point. There's not really any extra buttons, anything on it. It's just a little nub, whereas this one's a little bigger. And it's not that much noticeable when it's plugged in, but compared to this one, it's very big. So that's a looking comparison to the two. This one has a little bit more styling in the grip. Again, not familiar with the Genesis controller very much. Don't know if that's something that 8-bit Duo has done to make it more comfortable, or if that's a thing that Sega did that they are mimicking. The flat back is how the Super Nintendo controller was, and they both have the same similar trigger buttons up top and the micro USB charging port. This one I have not charged up, just opened it. After we charge it for a little bit, we'll plug it up to my Retro 2 so I can play some. I'll attempt to use it with an emulator and see how well that works. Again, the Mega SG is not here yet, but hopefully soon. It's all powered up, charged up. I'm going to plug the adapter into my Retro 2 emulator extractor, and we're going to play from the cartridge itself. We're not. I could download the ROM from the cartridge onto my computer, but just for kicks and giggles, we're going to play off the cartridge. I'll open the ROM from the Retro. So this has been a first look at the 8-bit Duo M30 Sega Genesis controller that's coming out in conjunction with the Analogue Mega SG. Besides that, it played very smoothly. Button input was, the moment you hit it, it reacted. Very comfortable. Nothing felt out of place. Nothing felt like it wasn't correct. I mean, everything operated the way it should operate. And I realize I'm going through an emulator, but I'm using real hardware. I'm using a real hardware controller, and I'm playing off the cartridge, which is stored in temp memory, but still, we weren't playing. I didn't download the ROM to the computer and play it. It was playing off the cartridge, and everything played smoothly. From what I can tell, it's great. Will the experience be different with the Mega SG or a Sega Genesis? Possibly. But by saying that, it possibly would be better. Once again, we're talking about software emulation versus hardware. So there could be a little bit of differences, but I don't really foresee it being a major difference. And if it is, it's going to be in the pros. It's going to be like that much better. Anyhow, if you're interested in a Retro 2 ROM dumper, let me know. I'll make a little video about what it is. They're not the easiest thing to find in the States. They're more of a European thing, but super easy to use. It works with both Genesis and Super Nintendo. I hope you enjoyed this first look at this controller and my extensive rambling about it. Thank you again for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I try to respond in some way to all comments. If you want to follow me on the social media, I am currently using Twitter with the handle Some Human Name. I'll put a link in the description. Again, thank you for watching. Check out some of my other videos if you want to get a heads up on the Super NT from Analogue that came out I got last year. You can check that video out. And soon I'll have a video for the Mega SG. Thank you and have a good night. Bye bye.